Alright, in this video, I want to talk about I don't really quite want to call it an epiphany I had, but I had this great idea. With the Orlando Magic, they have been a borderline playoff team for the past couple of seasons. They sneak in, get the 8 seed, get the 7 seed, and it's been for a while now my thought process that they should just blow it up and go for more of a rebuild, focus on their young guys in Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac, maybe Aaron Gordon, but I'll be fine if they ship them out too. But the one player who I've really questioned why they've held on to him for so long is Nikola Vucevic, just because, he's a great player, he's an all-star level player, he's been balling out for the past couple of seasons, but his age just doesn't quite fit with the rest of this Magic roster, so they signed him to the big deal, and now with all the injuries that have recently happened, Jonathan Isaac out for the season, Markelle Fultz out for the season, Aaron Gordon on a minutes restriction right now, just trying to get back and healthy, and I think this would be a perfect year for the Magic to give up on Vucevic, get some younger assets back that might fit this younger core that you're trying to work with, and I think I might have finally found a good team to sell Vucevic to. So the Dallas Mavericks have exploded back onto the scene with Luka Doncic. He is looking more and more like a generational type player every single year that he plays. He has dragged this Mavericks team back into contention. Last season we saw them as the 7th seed, and they gave the 2-seeded Clippers quite a good run in the playoffs. And right now they're looking like they're just a piece or two away from being a true title contender. And they also have a center of their own who's on a big $30 million per year contract. The only issue is this is a center with a history of injury issues, and I still don't know if he's quite the right fit on this team. And of course I'm talking about Kristaps Porzingis. So this morning I was looking around the league trying to find a team that could, one, make the contracts work with the Orlando Magic and Nikola Vucevic, but two, would actually have a need or a spot to fill with Vucevic as well. And although it would be definitely a risky move to make and maybe one that might upset some chemistry on some teams, I think this is a trade that would actually make sense in terms of a Vucevic for Porzingis swap. Obviously, these players have their differences. For starters, Nikola Vucevic is already 30 years old, whereas Porzingis is still only 25. And also, when speaking about their games, Porzingis is pretty, he earned the nickname the Unicorn for a reason. He is a 7'3" center who can move like a forward and go to the rim, dunk. He can play defense. He's a very good shot blocker, but he can also extend the range from even beyond the 3-point line, whereas Vucevic, he's a lot more of a traditional center. He'll get you, 10, 15 rebounds a night. He'll also be able to go into the post and give you 30 points on any given night, and both players are able to score the ball at will. It's just in terms of how they do it. But the big reason why I think this trade works is that, again, the Dallas Mavericks, they are ready to contend right now, whereas the Orlando Magic, with all their injuries and setbacks, they still have a couple years to go before they're really going to be truly contenders. So I think it makes sense in the way that the Mavs get Vucevic, who's someone who can stay healthy and just provide some second star support to Luka Doncic right now, while also just being a good center who can grab them rebounds. And although Vucevic isn't the best defender, he is a capable defender. It's not like he's going to be hurting them on the defensive end. I understand that the drop down from Porzingis to Vucevic would probably be a decent amount on the defensive side, but again, it's manageable. Whereas Porzingis, who's dealt with a fair amount of injuries so far in his career, he heads over to Orlando. He can really just take his time to rehab and get healthy again, like we saw Markelle Fultz do prior to the ACL injury, which is just god-awful for him. And then he can just take the time, get along with Isaac and Markelle Fultz, two guys who are also even more important around his age range. Fultz is 22, Isaac is 23, and then you bring on Porzingis, who's 25, so again, the ages just fit so much better around them. Porzingis is still on contract for 4 years, so even if he has to take a year to get healthy again, so do Fultz and Isaac, who both also just signed max extensions off of their rookie deals. So again, their contracts and just ages just line up so much better than they do with Vucevic. And obviously the big risk for Orlando is that we don't quite know what type of Porzingis we're going to get back once he's healthy. If you look at some of the other stars around the league who've had some pretty major injuries, I'd feel pretty good. Guys like John Wall, Kevin Durant, they both just came back from Achilles tears and they look like their same old selves. Well, I don't say their same old selves, but you get what I mean. They still look like elite level players. So the hope is obviously that Porzingis can come back and be an elite level player again, but there's also the issue of if he will stay healthy. And if I'm the Magic in this scenario, I think that's a risk that I'm worth taking. So again, you already have a pretty solid young core of Jonathan Isaac, Markelle Fultz, Aaron Gordon if they decide to keep him. I mean, Evan Fournier, he's a little up there in age. He's 28, but he's still fine. But I think the key thing is that by adding Porzingis, they have a really set future that as long as they can just get healthy and focus on this player development, they could be a pretty scary team because we've seen Markelle Fultz, he was playing great this season prior to his injury. Jonathan Isaac, we still have a pretty small sample size for him, but in terms of just being a defender who can also hit threes and be a third scorer in this scenario, I think he'd be pretty good too. And then obviously Porzingis, we've seen a lot of Porzingis, and if he comes back the same after his injury, then Porzingis could easily be a number 1, number 2 type player on a team. I don't know if this Magic squad would necessarily be contenders once these guys are all healthy, but I think they'd be in a whole lot better spot than they are right now. And then going back to the Mavericks, again, this would just be all about some foundation for them at that center position because with Porzingis being out, they've already had several lineup changes where they started the season bringing back Dwight Powell, who himself is coming off an Achilles injuries from last year. Then they had a lineup switch where they bring in Willie Cauley-Stein, but you have to ask yourself, do you really want Willie Cauley-Stein starting at your center position? I get he's not a terrible player, but at the same time, you could be doing a whole lot better, and in my opinion, Nikola Vucevic would be a huge upgrade over Willie Cauley-Stein. And at the end of the day, Luka is clearly a number 1 guy. He can go out and give you a 30-point triple-double any given night. He looks like he's already going to be pretty prepared to take this Mavericks team deep into the playoffs for about the next 10 seasons, so you want to surround him with talent that is more sure than a Kristaps Porzingis who seems to get injured every 20 games. And you can do that through getting Nikola Vucevic. And I know that, again, he's up there in age a little bit. He's 30. But you just need to have some stability for the next, he's on contract for the next 3 years. So you have some stability for these next 3 years. You have plenty of shooters around Luka and Vucevic where they can still be useful. Vucevic can also work in the pick and roll with Doncic, which will work out just fine. And again, just around that, the supporting cast I think is good enough that this Mavericks team could really be a good contender. Overall, I think that this is a trade that, while it might be a bit out of the box and unusual, I think it makes a whole lot of sense for both teams. Just to wrap things up, Magic get a lot younger and they just have a core that's a bit more in line with each other. And the Mavericks, they just become more of a win-now team, which I think is the stage that they're in. And again, it's just, in my opinion, it's a win-win for both sides. I would love to see this trade get done, and I hope it does, although it probably won't. But that'll do it for this video. Drop a comment down below on what you think about this potential trade idea. As always, leave a like if you enjoyed this video or enjoy this type of content. And as always, most importantly, thank you for watching.